The next step in our Chintamani yoga is a bit of an explanation of what it's based on. So we're not going to actually do the practice in this little section. Rather, what we're going to do is just get a perspective, and then there's two little bits of homework. So, Ishtadevata means the indwelling divine. And this particular kind of yoga, which is in many places in Asia as a practice, is about re-perceiving ourselves. So the difficulty is that there's a sort of a dream cloud of misperception that people wander about in. And not just people, animals and other sentient beings. They wander in this cloud of misperception. And the effects of this delusion are really quite compelling. So the idea of Ishtadevata, which means your chosen or personal deity, is a yoga that actually dispels this particular kind of illusion, which really goes to the heart of our self-perception and our identity as an ego. So the illusion, actually, that we all share is it's about identifying ourselves with something we are not. We are not identifying ourselves with our underlying nature. We're rather identifying ourselves with what we look like, what other people call us, what's our favorite color, where we went to school, where did we grow up, what language do we speak. And we identify with all of those, which are just, none of them are really about our primary identity. So the idea of the Ishtadevata practice, which in Tibetan is called yidam practice, it's a way to shift our identification from our self-identification to these just various sprinkling of identifications and moving it to you could call it a divine archetype. So the very first thing you'll need to do in this yoga is that you have to choose one of these divine archetypes. And it's important that it resonates with you at a gut level, and not, in other words, not just an intellectual. So in Vajrayana or Tibetan Buddhism, the choice is a yidam, which usually is a Buddha or a Bodhisattva, who is a great enlightened being that radiates infinite compassion, infinite wisdom, infinite skill. You can also choose another divine being that has meaning and inspires you. And also later, you can choose a different Ishtadevata than that you began with. That sort of your perception changed as you began this particular practice. So the important thing about this is that there are photos, you could say, or images of these various devatas or Ishtadevatas. And we want to familiarize ourselves with a specific image of the chosen yidam because they have all kinds of symbols and it varies. So it's like you're looking at a specific image. And the different images or the different symbols that they hold in this image is how this divine archetype manifests in the general world. And then in the book, we presented some Ishtadevatas in chapter 3 that you may want to review. And what's important is that before we do the next step, you need to make a choice of one of the Ishtadevatas that you're going to pursue. So you can have that firmly in mind before you begin. So the Ishtadevata yoga is that you're immersing yourself in the, you could say, the imaginary realm at this point of the Ishtadevata. And what you're trying to do is experience that realm as clearly as you possibly can. So the idea is that you're going to visualize your Ishtadevata 3 feet above your head. It can either face you or face the same direction as you or face toward you. If you're beginning this practice and you've never heard of this before, then the best way is to visualize the Ishtadevata 3 foot above, but facing you so you can see the face. There are other versions of doing this, so if you've had some experience, you can have the Ishtadevata above your head but facing outward. Another version of it is that you can have the Ishtadevata actually sitting at the same level as you, but like it were somebody, you looking into a mirror. It's a mirror image. Another way that you can practice the Ishtadevata is that you will be facing a version of yourself. In other words, the Ishtadevata faces you as a mirror image. And then the last arrangement or possibility is you visualize yourself like in your body. The Ishtadevata is you, or you are the Ishtadevata. This particular practice you need some sort of a tantric empowerment for. So we don't recommend it unless you've had that. And not just the empowerment, but there's a certain set of instructions that also go with it. So for the moment, what we're going to start with, if you've had no previous training, is you'll envision the Ishtadevata 3 feet above your head facing you. So in the beginning, you're just you sitting there, and all of a sudden you'll do a mantra, and then the Ishtadevata appears in front of you. And for some people, you can make it happen instantly. For some people, it takes, it sort of arises, sort of fades in like a film, fade in. So it doesn't really matter which way you do it. You do whatever is easier for you to experience. The important thing, though, is that you're going to experience the Ishtadevata not like as a solid body, like your solid body. You're going to see it more as like having a quality of emptiness to it, and it has a quality like rainbow light. So if you perceive yourself or you perceive the Ishtadevata as absolutely solid, that creates the problem. So we definitely do not want to do that. What we in fact are looking for is the Ishtadevata to have this quality of emptiness to it, and so that it's not dense. That's the important thing, is that energy can move in and out of it. When you do this particular kind of yoga, you know that it will be transforming your life over days, weeks, and months as you do this practice. Because the very first thing that will happen is that the yidam may spontaneously appear in your dreams, or the other thing is that some of the symbols that are in this world that are associated with the Ishtadevata, they appear in your daily life as either topics of discussion, as images, or as actually implements that you encounter. A second sign that it's working is that you experience the archetype not just like as a static picture, but somehow it just becomes plugged in and starts dynamically moving. And this will happen either and or in your dreams and your practice visualizations. The third sign that you are increasing your interaction with the yidam is that you can actually address the yidam and ask questions, and maybe later on start to receive answers. And then the next thing to do after that is that you need to test the answers that you get from the Ishtadevata. Are they accurate? Are they reliable? And if you find over time that the advice that you're getting is increasingly true and accurate and reliable, then this is an important sign, because now you can use this information as a guidepost, and the guru starts to become the guru of yourself. And then finally, as the yoga proceeds, the last sign is that you no longer identify with your physical body as yourself, and you no longer identify with your ego as yourself. You actually realize that your consciousness has shifted dramatically, and that you are really much closer to being the Ishtadevata than you are to being who you were when somebody called your name out loud. So in this case, because we're doing Chintamani yoga, which has to do with the wish-fulfilling gem, the important thing is that there must be, for this yoga to work, there must be a Chintamani inside the imagery. So a number of the Buddhist bodhisattvas or Buddhas will actually have a Chintamani that they hold. Often they will have in front of them a pile of gems, and usually in the iconography you will see a group of what looks like different colored turnips almost, but they will be on fire, and that either a single one or a group of them, that implies that it is that it is the Chintamani. But you want your Ishtadevata to have at least a Chintamani in its field that's easily identifiable, that you can see. And again, you can use chapter 3 of the book to find those that have easily identifiable Chintamanis. There are even, outside the Buddhist world, you can use certain of the Hindu deities, for instance, that will hold the Chintamani, because there is a strong tradition there. And so, for instance, you could pick an image of Ganesha, who usually does not display a Chintamani, but there may be one in which Ganesha actually holds a Chintamani in hand. So you want to choose some sort of Chintamani with the Chintamani being present in the field of the Ishtadevata. And then, as we do the practice, at the end of each session, we're going to offer the Chintamani, that we have of universal benefit. So you do want to have a clear quartz crystal that at the very beginning of the next practice session, you will take and you will place in front of you. And if it turns out that the Ishtadevata has a pile of Chintamanis, your crystal will be the corresponding Chintamani on your side of the equation. And it will be the direct connection between the mirror worlds. So what we're going to do then is, as you begin, take the crystal, the clear quartz crystal, and just set it in front of you, maybe a foot, just right in front of you as you're seated, or on a table in front of you if you're sitting in a chair. And then at the end, as we will end up making a wish to benefit all beings at the end, and it will basically be done through your crystal, so it's important to have that. So before we do the next actual practice, you need to have, first of all, decided what your Ishtadevata will be, and secondly, have a clear quartz crystal. The next practice we're going to do is going to be as an example, and we're going to use green Tara as the Ishtadevata as an example. So if it turns out that green Tara is your Ishtadevata already, then you can just go ahead with listening to this. If you've chosen another one, then you may you'll have to go through the same steps, but not auditorially with us as we move forward.